your TikTok shop ads just not working? Maybe you're seeing impressions, some clicks, but conversions are lacking, or your CPA is too high, or you've just flatlined and you haven't been able to scale. It's probably not your product. It's most likely your strategy, or worse, the agency that's running your ads. I'm Ethan Kramer, founder of EK Creative, the second ever TikTok shop partner in the US. And prior to that, we are the leading advertising agency for social commerce. Now, I oversee the social commerce team at Agital. And in this video, I'm walking you through the exact steps that I take when I audit accounts to evaluate TikTok shop, what they're doing wrong, and what they should be doing instead. This checklist has helped brands like Easy Bombs, Laundry Sauce, Wonderskin, and so many more crack the code on TikTok shop and finally be able to scale and drive ROAS at a really healthy rate so that they can focus on running the other aspects of their business. So whether you're running your own ads or you're working with an agency, this 20 minutes could save you thousands in wasted spend. So let's get into it. To set a quick preview of what we're gonna go through, there's 5 things that you should really be looking for at all times. 1 is your core metrics. Are they off or are they on? Are they within range or are they out of range? Number 2 is your audience testing strategy. From top of funnel to middle of funnel to retargeting, how frequently are you testing new audiences? Do you have the right exclusions here? Do you have the right retargeting campaigns set up? Number 3, probably the most important, is your creative strategy. We're gonna give you a lot of feedback on what metrics identify if the creative is working or not, and how to develop new ideas, new messages, new angles, and the volume of creative that you need as you scale. Number 4 would be your return on ad spend, matching your average order value. And are you pricing right, depending on the product, depending on your cost per acquisition, right? And number 5 would be the campaign structure. Does it make logical sense? Are you going in and you have a million different campaigns set up, or hundreds of different ads for all in the same ad group and none of them are getting enough spend, right? There's all these different things that you want to look for in your campaign structure to know, is this actually a good format for testing, or do I need to rework some of the outline here to give myself better foundation so that I can truly scale the account up? So let's get into it. Number 1 would be core metrics. Are they off or are they on, right? Are they within range or are they not? Specifically, this step is your CPM, your click-through rates, and your cost per clicks. If these are out of whack, right, you're already being handicapped and you're never going to be able to scale. So the first thing I do whenever I open an account is I look if their CPMs are under $20 or over $20. Under $20 is really the beginning of where it starts to get healthy. On TikTok Shop, you can easily see CPMs below $10, which is amazing. But if your CPMs or cost to reach 1,000 people are over $20, TikTok's basically telling you something. This is like your blood work. Something's off. You need to get this double checked. You need to identify why it's off, right? Because your CPMs are ultimately a function of your other advertising strategies, that we'll get into, but they're a main identifier and a first thing that you should check. The next metric that I always look at is your click-through rates. So if your click-through rate is under 1%, I can promise you there's opportunity to increase your audience to creative matchmaking. Your hooks are probably flat, right? There's something going on with your content where people just are not taking that next step. And if your click-through rates are between 1 to 3%, you're in a pretty good range. If your click-through rates are 2 to 4%, that tells me that your creative is working, right? So then you have to check for other areas to find out where the hole in the funnel is. And then your CPM and your click-through rate ultimately determine what your cost per click is. And so if your CPM is healthy and your click-through rate is healthy, 10 out of 10 times your cost per click is going to be less than $1. This is really important because if you're paying $5, $6, $7, $8 for a click, you're never going to be able to get enough traffic back, even at a 10% conversion rate, to truly be able to scale those campaigns. So your CPM, your cost to reach 1,000 people, and your click-through rate are really key metrics that you need to be studying at all times, and they determine your cost per click, which is ultimately going to be the amount of people you get back to a conversion setting right inside your TikTok shop. So if you're spending too much for that cost per click, you're never going to get enough people back. An ad account that I audited last week had CPMs literally at $70. First thing I opened up when I saw the ad account was $70 CPMs. And I said to the client, right, I don't even need to do the rest of the audit. Has your agency mentioned that your CPMs are this high? He went back and he said the agency said that that's a normal range. Red flag, right? That is not a normal range. It should be $20 or less. Now, What was really interesting on this account was when I started diving deeper, they actually had decent click-through rates, right? Their content was actually doing a decent job, but their CPMs were so high that they were never going to be able to get enough traffic back, right? And so in turn, their cost per clicks were like $7. So how do you get that down? There's a number of different strategies that we'll get into, but first it starts with identifying where the issue is. Now, in step 2, what I always recommend is looking at the audience testing strategy. So in that example that I just gave where the CPMs were $70 and the click-through rates were actually pretty decent, the issue was that the client was losing the auction because they were going too broad. Now, for some of you who have maybe heard TikTok or your agency say that broad targeting is the way to go, that can work, right? But it's not really your only solution. You have to look at the data, and we really encourage constant audience testing. TikTok really rewards this constant iteration. Usually in the first 7 days of launching a new audience, you're going to have an advantage, right? So what audiences should you be testing? You want to test broad audiences, but if broad audiences aren't working, you don't want to assume that that's not the issue, right? So then you want to go into interest stacks. These are things that are like combined interests. So, if you're in the food and beverage space, you might be targeting competitor brands and you might put those into one audience where you're targeting 20 of these, right? If you're in beauty and cosmetics, you might go in and you might put L'Oreal, The Ordinary, Estee Lauder, a number of these other brands that are similar to yours, and you create what I like to call stacked interest targeting that are all focused around a certain type of interest, but don't test interests individually because you'll never get the audience size that you need. When you're doing audience sizes, you want to be looking, if you're looking at new user acquisition, top of funnel, you want to be looking at audience sizes that are probably in the 20 million plus range. TikTok will tell you inside your ad account. So really, really important to do this. The other areas that I always look for is, have they tested any lookalike audiences, right? Lookalike audiences historically have been performing worse and worse over the years, but it's still a great place to start. And again, you need to constantly be introducing new audiences, so lookalikes have a really strong place in the funnel. And then I always look at the retargeting strategy, right? The retargeting audiences are going to be segmented differently. Those are going to be people that have clicked products inside your TikTok shop or watched a trending video that you've put a lot of spend behind, right? These are going to be people that are warmer, and you want to segment them out. You don't want to put all these people along with new users in the same audience, because ultimately you're not going to be able to craft the most compelling message to those people. The right message to the right user at the right time is key for advertising. So if you don't have your audiences segmented out inside your campaigns, and you're not testing top of funnel audiences constantly, and you don't have a separate campaign for retargeting, I can promise you that you're leaving money on the table, and that also if you're working with an agency, they're not adjusting things fast enough. So I always look to see if the agencies that I'm auditing are testing new audiences in the past 14 to 30 days. If not, they've got a major problem, right? The only way where this would be justifiable is if they're just totally scaling up spend or results are just cranking and everything's going well. But if that's the case, you're probably not auditing an ad account. We like to rotate new audience tests probably once a week, so every 7 days or so, especially when performance dips. When performance dips, we could be introducing new audiences every 3 to 4 days, right? This is how we find new pockets of people, which ultimately is new opportunities for profit. Step 3. So we've gone through the core vitals that you're checking, then we've gone through your audience testing strategy. Now we're going to dive into your creative strategy, right? This is where probably 90% of TikTok shop accounts ultimately fail. They're either not testing enough creative, right? Or they're not remixing the winners, right? Or their content is just not selling the product in a native way to TikTok. So the audience that I referenced earlier, while they had decent click-through rates, they still were only testing 6 creatives total, right? And they were all fairly generic. So after looking deeper at the actual ads that they were running, their click-through rates were healthy because they were selling a product that was trending on the platform, right? So in this case, it was a collagen product. That product has a lot of interest, right? So people look at that product and they're interested to learn more. But the creative was doing a really bad job of segmenting the product category and the actual product itself. So you can sell someone on the fact that they need collagen pretty easily. But how do you sell them that they need your brand's collagen? What is your brand doing differently, right? Whether it's third-party testing, a certain proprietary formula, your sourcing, right? Your brand needs to ultimately stand out if you're selling a product category like that. So that's another red flag that I saw was their creative, while it was working and it was getting good click-through rates, there wasn't enough of a layer for conversion. So even in that scenario, they're first of all, like they're paying too much per click, right? Secondly, now they are not getting enough traffic, right, from those clicks back. And then the traffic that they do get is selling the product category, but not the product. So again, what we like to do is we like to build a B-roll library of all your content over time. We figure out what your top performing hooks are. We show product differentiation, not just the benefits, but why our products are different. And we use a lot of native things on the platform, whether that's replying to comments, right? Community engagement, reviews, all those things work really well. And we find that when we have creative that hits, we can scale really, really fast by introducing new variations and retargeting opportunities here. I'll drop some more resources to creative and how we look at that in the notes below, because we could do a whole nother video on that, which we probably will at a later point. So make sure to follow the channel. But I want to move on now to your actual return on ad spend, your cost per acquisition, and your average order value. So the click-through rates, the CPMs, and the cost per click are really like your core vitals. When we start looking at ROAS, CPA, and AOV, that's when we're doing almost like a second round of blood work and we're getting more into the core of everything. So let's take an example where maybe your average order value is $30, but your CPA is $45. That's not going to give you enough foundation to scale, right? You can acquire new users all the time, but you'll never be profitable in that scenario. So you need to work backwards, right? You need to set your cost per acquisition goals and your ROAS targets, right? Based off of your cost of goods, your all the other things like shipping, right? Maybe potential returns and AOV. So you need to look at all these different things to get your CPA goals whenever you work with an agency and your ROAS targets. Your agency should know exactly what CPA you need to continue to spend more on ads, and they should know what your target ROAS is. And you need to look at these things separately because return on ad spend is a metric that people like to look at a lot, but cost per acquisition is ultimately what's really, really going to drive growth. If you're not acquiring new users, we can go in and retarget people that are familiar with your brand and get them to buy for pretty cheap. And we could probably have a really healthy return on ad spend in that scenario, but your monthly revenue is never going to scale. So you really need to lock in on cost per acquisition and new users coming in each month. And then from there, you want to look at return on ad spend. So set your CPA goal, then take your AOV, right? Figure out what your return on ad spend should be. Look at your return on ad spend for new users differently than your return on ad spend for retargeting users, which I'll get into and talked a little bit about, but campaign structure is like the fifth step here. Whenever I look at an audit of what I think we need to go, where the opportunities are, right? Then you can help identify where the AOV or the cost per acquisition or the return on ad spend is dropping. Again, by going back to those core vital metrics like click-through rate, cost per click. So if you're getting really good cost per click, you're getting really healthy CPMs and you're getting really good click-through rates, but you're not hitting your CPA goals, then the issue is probably the conversion rate on your TikTok shop itself. So how do you counteract that? Well, you drive more reviews, right, to your TikTok shop. You make sure you beef up your social proof. You create content, right, that goes after those audiences, and you introduce maybe some sort of retargeting campaign here. So again, make sure your shop has reviews, any badges, clear offers, product descriptions are clear, your imagery looks good, right? And we've actually, really helped scale accounts by going in and fixing the post-click experience, right? It's a shopping experience. So your ad account is one part of the puzzle, but your ad account's really just there to drive people to your TikTok shop, and your TikTok shop as a platform itself needs to really convert. So it's not just the ads that impact your cost per acquisition, your return on ad spend. And then obviously your bundle strategy, your pricing strategy, those are all going to affect AOV. So if you have a product that costs $10, you're going to need to see a CPA of most likely around $3 to $5 to be able to scale. That's asking a lot of the platform. So in that scenario, what I would actually do is say, how do we get that average order value up? Could we sell a bundle? Could we sell a 3-pack? Make that our hero product, right? Because ultimately you really want to have your AOV be at a minimum $20 on the platform to scale with advertising campaigns. And the fifth thing, and again, this is the outline, this is sort of like the blueprint, the structure, the foundation, this is like the wiring, the campaign structure, right? So oftentimes I audit an account and they have one campaign going. They don't have any exclusions, right? They're not excluding people who have bought from them before, so they don't know that they're targeting new users. They are not retargeting, right? So maybe TikTok is doing some retargeting inside that campaign, but they don't have any control over that. And there's just no segmentation. There's truly no funnel. And I wish this was a joke, but that's what we see all the time from underperforming accounts. And so what you want to do is you want to have a strategy that allows for net new traffic constantly coming in. It can be a conversion campaign. Just because I say net new traffic doesn't mean that these people should be running a traffic campaign. It means that you need new eyeballs coming in, right? So you need to exclude all the people that have bought from you before. Typically, I like some sort of middle of funnel, right? Or bottom of funnel, depending on your level of spend. At the minimum, I would do a new user campaign and a retargeting campaign. The content in these campaigns is going to be different, right? Someone who's just finding out about your brand for the first time, the messaging is going to be different than the person who's clicked a product, thought about buying, and just hasn't made the conversion yet. And that messaging is going to be different than the person who's a super loyal user who you're showing a new product launch to, right? So that's why you really need to have strong campaign structure as you scale. You typically want to start off with a new user acquisition campaign and a retargeting campaign. And then ultimately what I like to build towards is a new user acquisition campaign, a warm nurturing campaign, usually video viewers, engaged users, right? A bottom of funnel. So this is like really warm people. Think about product shopping ads here, people that have clicked an item and added it to cart but haven't bought yet. And then a very low budget loyalty campaign. Again, I like to use video shopping ads for O1. I like to use product shopping ads for O2. We definitely recommend using in your ad account because we feel like it gives you a lot more control. But we do have accounts where we also pair these campaign structures with GMV Max. I'll do another video on GMV Max as well. The GMV Max campaigns have pros and they have cons. It really just depends. And there's a lot of information there to go through. So we'll save that for the next one. But for step 5 here, just make sure that you have exclusions to avoid overlap and waste inside your ad account. The other thing that I've seen without exclusions is you can go in and basically just move your Shopify audience or your brand audience or your Amazon audience over to your TikTok shop, and you think you're getting a really healthy return on ad spend, you think you're getting a really healthy customer acquisition cost, but you're actually not, right? These are people that are already familiar with your brand, that are already buying from you, and you're just spending more money to get them to buy on a different platform. It's not really the greatest solution. It's not going to help you create a new sales channel on the platform, which is our ultimate goal. So those 5 steps will really give you a lot of information and insights into what is working and what's not inside your ad account. The other things that we see a lot of agencies miss, just to get into it, is detailed affiliate briefs, not taking advantage of offers from TikTok and free ad spend, or just having someone go inside the accounts day in and day out, monitor creative, right? Optimize that. Because sometimes you'll have a winning ad, but TikTok is just not getting enough spend on that ad, right? Don't let these platforms optimize. You want to lean into the AI optimization, but you need to have human oversight. And this isn't just a theory. This is exactly what we've done again for brands like Easy Bombs or even the Willow Tree or the Willow Boutique, who've gone from literally nothing. We had the second ever purchase on the platform with Willow Boutique to now doing 7 figures per month on just TikTok shop alone. And that doesn't include all the benefit that they get from traffic that flows from TikTok shop to their Shopify and to these other channels. Again, find the problems, fix it, right? If you're having trouble or you want us to take a look, we do audits. That's really my job here at the agency. So we would love to check it out. If your TikTok shop ads are not working, they're not where they need to be, and you want a team that lives and breathes this space, book a call with us. We'll audit your account, show you exactly what we do differently. No fluff. Take it or leave it. You can implement it yourself, or hey, you can even go give it to your other agency. But obviously we would love to come in and do this for you. If you're still figuring things out, check out my next videos where I break down exactly how to launch right on TikTok shop in the first 30 days, what metrics you need to look for inside your seller center. We're going to also get into GMV Max, and we're going to be talking a lot about affiliate and live shopping in videos to come. Hit like, drop a comment if this helped, and I'll see you in the next one where we'll show you exactly how to set up your TikTok shop for long-term success.